Hello and welcome to Palace Confidential, still the world's best royal programme. That's just facts right there. I'm Jo Elvin, and back this week is the Daily Mail's royal editor Rebecca English and the paper's diary editor Richard Eden. Welcome to you both. Now, a reminder that if you do enjoy our show, please like and subscribe to our free channel to be reminded whenever a new episode arrives. We will get to the crown in just a second, but first, Rebecca, the royals, back at work, and that means you're hard at it as well. But Catherine, we've seen a lot of her this week. What's she been up to?
We have her and William. To be precise. Yeah.
No. Oh yeah, him as well.
The photographers love her, but it's been quite the kind of royal duo this week. It's a series of engagements all built around World Mental Health Day on Tuesday, and they've been everywhere from kind of Birmingham to Milton Keynes to Nottingham, doing some joint but some separate engagements to kind of highlight that aspect of their work. And it was a bit of a kind of renewed pledge of interest from them. It's something that they focused on many years ago and really changed the national conversation around mental health, but it's slightly taken a very slight back burner, I think, recently to other big projects they've got on. But, you know, to the extent that Catherine actually asked to give a speech this week, which is a kind of rare public speech for her, and she really wanted to commit herself and publicly kind of reinforce their commitment to this issue moving forward. Yeah,
and straight after this, you are heading to Buckingham Palace.
Yes, I am. The joys of my working day.
Rebecca's life is so glamorous.
You make it sound like I'm going for wine and canapes, and I'm not. I'm covering serious engagement.
So Richard and I have a theory that you tell us that it's all gruel and toil, and it is.
I'm going back to the office for a sandwich. You're off to the palace for canapes and foie gras.
What are you up to then?
So the King is presenting the Queen Elizabeth Prize for Engineering, so a kind of lovely hark back to something his late mother started, and you've got some other kind of nation's best engineering heroes there, and it's kind of another example of how now we're well into October, we're back to the kind of the normal grist of what working life is like.
Now, Richard, Harry and Meghan back in New York, and there was more car controversy, if you can believe it. Tell us what you know about that.
This is the Duke and Duchess of Sussex have bravely returned to New York City. It's their first visit since that sort of epic visit you might remember where they were involved in a near catastrophic high-speed car chase through the streets of Manhattan. So this time they were taking no chances. There was a fleet. They arrived in a convoy of 7 vehicles. It wasn't a very long journey. It was just to go around the block. But the eco-campaigners thought we had to take 7 vehicles. You might remember that...
You're so cheeky.
You might remember that Prince Harry created a company, Travelist, which was all about ethical travel. So I'm not sure he's done himself any favours here, but anyway, they were there it was the World Mental Health Day festival, which we'll discuss a bit later on.
Yes, indeed, we will get to that a bit later on in the show. Rebecca, let's talk about The Crown now, which returns for its 6th series later this year. But already there's an uproar, particularly over the portrayal of the late Princess of Wales, Diana.
Yeah, this was actually a brilliant exclusive by the Daily Mail's chief showbiz writer, Alison Boshoff, and she managed to get an exclusive insight into the kind of the big themes that are going to come up in the last and, as you say, final series of The Crown. And the thing that really caught her eye, and rightly so, was the idea that Diana is going to come back as some kind of ghostly apparition, talking to the then Prince Charles.
Oh, keep it classy, Crown.
And also to Queen Elizabeth. At one point, you know, she reduces Queen Elizabeth to tears and holds her hand as the Queen tells her that you were the woman that started a revolution in this country, and that there's all something they could learn for.
This is sounding like Dallas's Sue Ellen, it was all a dream.
Well,
do you know what I mean?
That's exactly. I spoke to Buckingham Palace. Do not want to get involved, but I spoke to some people who are kind of fairly well plumbed in on this, and one said to me, "It sounds like the Bobby Ewing shout scene."
That's what I mean. Yeah.
And the other one, I've never heard this phrase before. I know you learn a lot on this, but I learned something new this week. Jump the shark.
Jumping the shark from Happy Days.
Happy Days,
when Fonzie jumped a shark on water skis.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'd never heard of that before. Which obviously, to those that know, means when something that's kind of respected starts kind of taking slightly desperate measures to try and stay relevant. I mean, on a serious note, someone else pointed out to me that, you know, we're laughing about it, and I personally think the crown makers have shot themselves in the foot with this, I really do. But, you know, this is a very kind of personal, private moments being really sensationalised. The moment with Charles and Diana comes just after apparently he's shown sobbing over her coffin in Paris, and then she comes as this apparition to him on the flight of the way home and literally goes, "Ta-da, I'm here," and they have this meaningful heart-to-heart. I'm sure the makers will say it's meant to be a kind of a depiction of what he might have been thinking, but I think there's some people who will think it's pretty distasteful.
Well, and it used to, when you think about the first series, that it was just so much gravitas bestowed upon it in terms of it being like an historical record. And Richard, you know, some people believe that everything in The Crown is a documentary, so it's not ideal for the royal family, this is it?
It really isn't. I mean, from what I hear, you know, each time there's a new series, there's sort of collective groan at the palace, think, oh, not again. I mean, I think one of the worst aspects of being a member of the royal family is having to put up with this sort of stuff. As you say, when it started, you know, I enjoyed it. It was very much a kind of like a historical document with a lovely portrayal of the Queen and, you know, when she became Queen and that type of thing. But now it's become this rather sort of tawdry soap opera. But yes, I think they will be dreading the new series. And
there's not really a lot they can do, Rebecca, is there, the royal family, other than cling on to their never complain, never explain motto?
Yeah, it's uncomfortable timing because the Crown makers and Netflix are trying to make the most out of this. They divided this series into two parts. One will come out in November, one will come out in December. And the one in November comes out 2 days after King Charles's 75th birthday, so I think the lead up to his birthday there's going to be a lot of publicity around this, which might be a coincidence, some might say sarcastically unfortunate timing. It'll further, I think, reinforce what others have complained about, that this isn't the historically accurate representation of events that people first thought it was.
Let's move back into the real world now, Richard, and your story that you have about William and Catherine. They've added some movie glitter to their team. Yeah, this was a really interesting appointment to the Royal Foundation, which is the charity that William initially started with Harry. Now it's William and Catherine. They've appointed Dame Pippa Harris as a director. Now, she's a really eminent figure in show business in Britain. She created Neal Street Productions with Sir Sam Mendes, best known for making Call the Midwife, popular TV series and other films such as 1917. So she's been appointed, and I think from what I hear, it's that they want her advice on the arts side of things. So, you know, we've commented here how they've been producing particularly slick new social media videos. Yes. They've been like kind of mini films in themselves. So she would be perfect. I'm sure they'd say, we're thinking of bringing this one out, you know, what do you think? Yeah. So she could be a big help on that. And it just shows really it's not just, you know, Harry and Meghan that have got those showbiz connections. And that they're sort of like really making strides towards being a very modern couple, aren't they, in terms, well, as a modern royal couple? I think so, yeah. It's not a sort of fusty old institution. They want the Royal Foundation to be always trying to look for new ideas, new ways of communicating. And it's a big charity, and it's got an annual income of about £10 million a year, I think. So it's big money. Now, Rebecca, you have somehow found time to write another fascinating piece about what you're calling Charlie's Angels.
Oh, thanks, Joe. It's something I've been mulling over for a while, just because it occurred to me that we're not actually going to see another female monarch for at least 3 generations now. But yet there are some really amazingly strong female figures around the king. Obviously his wife, Queen Camilla, Princess Anne, the Princess of Wales, but also the Duchess of Edinburgh. And I thought the Duchess of Edinburgh, who's done a really powerful but quite under the radar trip to Ethiopia this week, where she's been meeting the victims of sexual violence due to the civil conflict there, but also been doing a lot of work on the issue of preventable blindness. And I thought this is a really good example of how these women are just going about, you know, their daily business without a great deal of fanfare or kind of showbiz entity, getting on with the job in hand, and what an important, you know, support network this is for the king. And I think, certainly like on Princess Anne, I noticed that when the palace issued their coronation portraits, Anne was on Charles's right hand. And I thought, surely that's no coincidence, shows you that this is a woman he absolutely 100% trusts and relies on. I just thought it was an interesting time to look at the work that they were doing.
I'm just trying to have this mental image of who's who in that old Charlie's Angels 70s lineup. Which one's in the Farrah spot?
I mean, that I put it.
That's Camilla, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a bit of fun. Yeah, she's got the flick backs, hasn't she? Yeah, it's a bit of fun, that. But actually, there's a kind of serious point to it that someone said to me. Sometimes he kind of pretends to be a bit scared of powerful women, but actually he really likes them in his life. His life was very much shaped by his relationship with his grandmother, the late Queen Mother, a very strong, powerful figure, female figure in his life, and he does like having them around them, and he likes hearing that diverse set of voices around the table. Anyway, it's on Mail Online on our new super duper Royals pages, so hopefully viewers will have time to click on that as well.
Nice plug. Well, now we'll be discussing the growing gulf between William and Harry in just a moment, but first to some of your thoughts, and nearly 2,000 of you commented on last week's Royal Fashion Special with fashion designer Amanda Wakely and our Rebecca and myself. Now, if you missed that one, do make sure you go back and check it out. We had a lot of fun making it. Jamie Kennedy said, Catherine, Anne and Sophie epitomise style and that true classics never go out of style. Deb had this to say, I'm an American and because of Catherine, I purchased English clothing more than American and I adore your clothing, the style, the materials and the craftsmanship. Graphique Jack was full of praise for the new Queen. What I love about Queen Camilla's style is it is chic, tasteful, modern at times, traditional at others, and she chooses colours that are slightly more muted or pastel, so she doesn't outshine her husband. She nailed the trip to France flawlessly. France flawlessly is hard to say. Others asked for another show where we looked at the style of some of the other royals, and we'll look to do that in the future, so thank you for that. Now, let's come back to the panel, and Rebecca, some people have been pointing out why this week in particular was another time when the gap between William and Harry was shown to be at its furthest ever.
Yeah, I think what people are referring to is, again, Tuesday, World Mental Health Day, when both William and the Princess of Wales and Harry and Meghan conducted engagements, but one was in New York, the others were in Birmingham. And I think what struck people was that in 2016, William and Kate and Harry started that amazing Heads Together campaign, which I think even their harshest critics must acknowledge went a huge way to changing the national conversation about mental health and the importance of it. It was a really, cleverly constructed campaign, and it's just very sad that an issue that brought them so closely together, they're now having to sit and speak about on opposite sides of the world.
And ironically, probably done quite a number on everyone involved's mental health. I mean, it's it's a distressing thing to be estranged from family, isn't it? I mean, Richard, I know you've written about that in your newsletter this week as well.
Yeah, I mean, I was drawing the contrast, looking back at the history of Heads Together and what's happened this week. But there's been a lot of criticism from Harry and Meghan cheerleaders this week about William and Catherine not helping Meghan when, remember, she's spoken publicly on Oprah Winfrey about how she was suffering mental health problems, a difficult time, and sort of no one came to her support. So people have been saying, well, look, William and Catherine, it's just skin deep, you're campaigning for mental health, but you didn't help Meghan. I think that's outrageous. It's so unfair. I mean, Harry previously conceded that it was William who'd advised him to seek help when he came back from serving with the forces in Afghanistan and felt that he needed some support. And William had encouraged him to seek help. And then also, as you've alluded to, what did it do to William and Catherine's mental health to be publicly shamed, attacked on TV when Harry and Meghan knew full well that they couldn't answer back? I mean, that would be bad for any of us, but at least if someone attacks any of us, we can speak back. Whereas William and Catherine can't because of convention and being in the royal family. So I thought that's really unfair criticism.
It's fascinating, isn't it? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but it's like just that if anybody had told you in 2016 where we would be now, having watched those four on stage together, It's just
Yeah.
beggars belief.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, I think, and it was a rare time that we saw what an effect it had all had on William's mental health when he was, a few days later was at a school doing an event and someone called out to him about, how do you respond to his suggestions that the royal family is racist? And, I've got to know William fairly well over the years. You know what makes him tick, and you can see the way that he was carrying that stress in his body and his jawline, and that's when he snapped back. No, we are very much not a racist family. I mean, I think we got a glimpse in there to the real effect this was having on his mental health.
Exactly.
Now, Rebecca, this story leads us to an interview with the BBC's veteran royal correspondent Nicholas Witchell, who said he believed there would be a reconciliation with William eventually, and that he was sure that, quote, their father would fervently hope they would. What did you make of that?
Yeah, the legendary Nick Witchell actually was retiring from the beat after...
Nick to Rebecca.
40, 50 years.
It's incredible.
Yeah, it's incredible. And I think any family would fervently hope that rifts will be mended. No father wants to see his sons at loggerheads. But I would caution that when this all first happened, people I know who were very well plumbed into the situation said to me, I can't believe there's not a time these brothers won't ever be speaking again. They've just been through too much. They've been too close, despite what Harry said in his memoir. And those people are not saying the same things now, I have to say. And it suggests that if it were to happen one day, we're talking about a long time from now, I have to say, and it's a real shame.
Now, Richard, another quote from Nick about Harry was that a lot of people would say that he's let a lot of people down, but I think he's been affected by the tragedy of his mother's death, and I think temperamentally, perhaps he wasn't suited to that role. Is that fair?
I've got great respect for Nicholas Witchell, but I don't agree with him on that point, because I thought that Harry did seem very suited actually to that role. When we used to see him, at the launch of Heads Together, laughing and joking with William and Catherine, they genuinely seemed to form a good team. And I thought that role of being second and helping his brother, I think he was suited to that. And I think he did it brilliantly, and he brought lots of new aspects to the royal family in terms of the common touch and reaching out to different people. And I'm afraid what changed was Meghan. It's been since he met her that things have changed, and he's drifted away, and then he has started to look unsuitable, and then he started to see everything through a different prism, I think, and we saw that in his book. Events that at the time we thought they were having a laugh, they were joking around, then it becomes really kind of sinister, and it's all got a different take on it. So I'm not sure he's right on that front.
And why do you think, Rebecca, if Nicholas Witchell is right and he isn't temperamentally suited to it, why do you think he's still sort of doing these quasi-royal engagements and appointments with the media and interviews and things like that?
Well, firstly, I think it's all he knows. This is what he's been schooled, he's been trained in. There's a reason, why people are interested in the royals. And I suspect there's a financial element to it. He knows that, by conducting himself in that way, it's probably going to be financially beneficial to him. And I would also take issue with the idea that, he does a lot with the media, because he very much now picks and chooses what media he deals with, and that's completely his right to do that. But actually, the funny enough is the royal family don't. They allow, if we all get press releases that go around to all interested media. We have big press conferences where we have all sorts. We had a briefing today about the forthcoming, this week, about the forthcoming royal tour to Kenya, and there were all TV broadcasters, papers, magazines there, some of which I'm sure the royals like, some of which they don't like. But there was a wide breadth of media there. So, as I say, I think he's kind of tries to pick and choose from the royal world what suits him, I think, is the best way of describing it.
Well, moving on now. Now, at the top of the show, we promised you pictures of the royals as you've never seen them before. Well, here you go. Here at Palace Confidential, we've jumped onto the latest TikTok craze and transformed the royal family into stars of their own 90s yearbook. Check it out. Well, I'm not sure I'll ever look at them the same way again, especially old King Charles Ding Dong. What did you think?
Well, I've got to go and see him now, and all I'm going to see is that TikTok image in my head.
Please show him if you get
I thought
a chance.
they were great. We've got to do it with Rebecca next.
And you, Richard. We can make a whole calendar out of yours for the Edenites.
I would actually say the King's got quite a good sense of humour on those things, because years ago I had an exclusive story about how he taken to scything his wildflower meadow at Highgrove.
Did you Poldark him?
We Poldark'd him in the paper. Hopefully there are enough people that will know what that means. We superimposed his head on the very attractive body of the actor from Poldark'd, and it was so realistic. Even I had to do a double take, and apparently the paper, someone told me when he was showing the papers the next morning, it was put on his desk, and even he did a double take. And
they said, that's what I look like.
They said, sir, and apparently he turned around and went, well, I do look rather buff. So he has got a sense of humour about these things.
And he's looking buff in our yearbook as well. But let us know your thoughts below. And as always, if you enjoy our content, do remember to like and subscribe. It's free, and that way you never need to miss another episode or another crazy picture. Thanks to my guests, Rebecca and Richard, and to you for watching. We will see you next time. Bye-bye.